I'd like you to talk about your arrest from 35 years ago.
In 1983 in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, I was riding in the car with a friend of mine, and he got pulled over and he had marijuana in the car. And unbeknownst to me at the time, but he had it under the seat. And the police found that, and then they arrested both of us. He had, I think it was 2 ounces of marijuana. And when we were arrested, I had at that time $50 worth of cocaine in my pocket. And when we were handcuffed and they searched my pockets, they found the cocaine. And I was charged with possession of cocaine with intent to distribute, because that was how the law in Idaho read. Whether you had $50, $500, $5,000, $50,000 worth of cocaine, it is intent or possession with intent to distribute. Did I distribute? No, I did not. I had it in my possession. But I have disclosed that for the last 35 years because I've got an insurance business, and when I get appointed with insurance companies, I have quite an application to fill out about, have you ever been arrested? Have you ever been charged with a felony? And yes, I was charged with a felony, but I never went to court over it. Charges were dismissed within a couple of days.
Was it on a technicality, or did they just actually determine that it was kind of bogus?
I believe at the time, and I would have to research the technicality of it, was the way they found it. It was illegal search and seizure on the police's part. And the Coeur d'Alene, the prosecuting attorney, dismissed all charges. And had I ever been convicted, I wouldn't be serving in the Idaho legislature as a convicted felon. And so that was my arrest, and it's been public for 35 years, and every time I run for election, it always comes out.
Of course.
I find now, running for a new position as lieutenant governor, there are a lot of people that really want to talk about it. And that's fine. I have nothing to hide.
Well, you are going for number 2 spot in the state. That's pretty significant. They want to know everything about you.
They know, then I'm fine telling them everything about me. I have no skeletons in my closet, and that's why I think there are a lot of good people that maybe 25, 30, 35, 40 years ago maybe had a little incident like I had and won't run for public office because it's all going to be out there. People love to open closet doors and let all the skeletons fall out. But mine fell out 35 years ago. So that's the story on that.
What about the accusations that you became a confidential informant at that time?
I did not at that time.
Did you ever?
Years later, I introduced a friend of mine to another acquaintance of mine who was a major drug dealer. He was an acquaintance, he wasn't a friend. He was from the Silver Valley, a small area, small town. You kind of know everybody in the Silver Valley, you know, the Wallace, Kellogg, Mullen area. And I introduced the 2 of them. And from that they did whatever they did that resulted in that issue. But 4 years ago, there in one of my Senate elections here in Post Falls, there was a group of people that, 2 people in particular, well, really 1 in particular, that wanted me to hire him to run my campaign. And I've never hired anybody until this election, because this is a statewide election. But sure enough, he went to work for my opponent and just went after me in every way he could. Dirty campaigns are dirty campaigns, and people will say a lot of things in campaigns. But was I a confidential informant? No. Did I introduce 2 people that I didn't realize one of them was facing some charges unbeknownst to me at the time? Yes.
And the other one was a law enforcement of some sort?
No, the other one was a major drug dealer.
Oh, I see.
Was a major drug dealer, and law enforcement was able to take this major drug dealer off the streets.
Okay, so you've never been paid as an informant?
Never been paid as an informant. Check the records.
Well, I don't need to do that. I'm asking you.
I'm telling you,
fair
no.
enough.
Fair enough. I've never been paid as an informant.
Now, that doesn't mean somebody else won't check the records, but as far as I'm concerned, if you tell me that, I will believe you.
Thank you. Yeah, and feel free, check the records. People check them all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about 2004, I believe it is. You can correct me if I'm wrong. When you were first running for the House, and you ran against an opponent, and that again was a very contentious race in which a libel suit ended up happening. Is that correct?
Yeah, Rose Johnson, I think, was
Okay.
the person, if I remember it right, and that was actually in, I think, the general election, because I had a primary election that year. It was an open seat in 2004 when I first ran, and then a libel suit was filed by Rose Johnson in the Constitutional Court. It wasn't the U.S. court system, and that's why it never went anywhere. It was the Constitutionalist Court. So it's not the U.S. court system as we know it. Now, Constitutionalists might believe that their court system is the only court system, but the U.S. court system and the Idaho court system is the court system. But I hired an attorney to realize what I had to do. She did, if I remember right, Rose was a former legal assistant, and so there were these items of discovery that she had sent to the attorney I hired, and we had to answer all of them, and then realized through this process that this case was never filed in county court or Idaho district court or U.S. court. It was really filed in the Constitutionalist Court, which is not a recognized court.
Like a sovereign citizen court?
I remember.
Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Well, I'm not sure that was the term I knew at the time or had heard at the time, but it was Constitutionalist Court, which is not a recognized court. And so the case was dismissed, and I'm trying to remember this, it's 14 years ago, with prejudice or without. The term, and I'm not a lawyer, but the term meant that she could never bring it back.
Right. The way I understand it, I will explain what I understand of it, and you can please correct me if I don't have it this right. It was the determination was based on the merits. They found willful libel, but because of a statute of limitations, it didn't go anywhere. Could that be?
Boy,
I'm digging out of your brain.
I'm trying to remember all of that because when it was filed, when I received it, I think Rose was probably on the ballot in '04. That was when I first ran, and then trying to remember, I would have to do my own research, but I think what I've always done in my elections is to try to send a mailing piece out that shows the difference between me and my opponents, and whether they have served and they have a voting record or they haven't served, what are their positions on a number of issues, from taxation to education to pro-life to pro-gun or anything. And I think she thought that I said she was pro-choice, and I was referring to another candidate. I think there was a three-way race. There was myself, a Democrat, and then this lady, Miss Johnson, that was a constitutionalist, and she tried to...
So there was no willful malice on your part?
No, none whatsoever.
Okay.
None whatsoever.